points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Can you imagine on February the 14th, Valentine's Day, the most romantic day on the calendar, allegedly, even though that's bullshit? Can you imagine that you say to your significant other, honey, or I got you the best Valentine's Day gift I could think of. You and I, we're going to go to the Jets game. And we're going to go watch the Jets, the juggernaut, the wagon, play against the San Jose Sharks. Because that's what's next time that these two teams meet each other is on Valentine's Day. And I'm pretty sure that is more of a booby trap sort of Valentine's Day gift than one that is going to put you into the good graces for the remainder of 2024. With that, we say good morning, Winnipeg, good morning, Manitoba, and for all those joining us live this morning on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good morning, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to discuss, to no one's surprise at this point in time, yet another Winnipeg Jets victory. 10 games in a row now that they have earned points. That sets a brand new Jets/Thrashers record. It wasn't necessarily an easy one. It was a grinder. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't dominant, but it was effective nonetheless. 2-1. The Winnipeg Jets win over the San Jose Sharks tonight at SAP Center in, I don't know, I'll say downtown San Jose, but I don't really know if it's downtown San Jose or not. Gentlemen, good to see you both on the now wee hours of Friday morning.
What's up, boys? And yeah, good evening. Pardon me, I guess good morning. Yeah, it's 12:04 in the morning now, so it is officially Friday morning. I guess, is it the weekend yet, boys?
No.
I think it's not going to be much of a weekend for us because we have a show 4 days in a row.
Yeah.
But yeah, that wasn't that was a hockey game played between two hockey teams. And obviously, if you looked at the score and you looked at the shots, you would say this game was pretty even, but we know better than that. It was not even. Look, Mackenzie Blackwood, I'm a Devils fan. A lot of people watch the show know this. Mackenzie Blackwood was the odd man out in New Jersey. He was good tonight. He kept the Sharks in it and he gave them a chance to come back. But I mean, Dave, this is kind of like your kind of quintessential team that really doesn't have an identity, right? Like, what is that? 10 losses in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned Jets have points in 10 in a row. It's like two teams going in opposite directions, right? And San Jose,
the last time the Sharks got a point was against the Jets,
exactly.
almost 3 weeks ago. I guess was that December the 12th. I think going back to when that game was.
Yeah, it was December 12th. Yeah,
yeah.
And so I mean, San Jose is obviously going to be in the Macklin Celebrini sweepstakes. He was really good for Team Canada, even though they got ousted in the quarterfinal. But you gotta love, what stood out to me was late in that game, Vlad Nemesnikov blocks a shot. I forget if it was Mikhail Granlund or it was Tomas Hertl. Broke his stick, right? But this team, this is, for all intents and purposes, this is a pretty meaningless game, right? The Jets are comfortably in a playoff spot, comfortably at the top of the Central Division, top of the Western Conference. But to me, that just exemplifies what type of team they have this year. I don't know if you had, guys like, Dylan Samberg, I'm not saying he wasn't blocking shots, but, Gabe Vilardi blocking shots, Vlad Nemesnikov blocking shots, Alex Iafallo blocking shots in a game against one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the league, right? So, I mean, look, the second period was bad, boys. That was not a good second period for the Jets. No. But the good thing for the Jets was the first and the third were just utterly dominated by them. So they obviously could have had, a few more goals and, Gabe Vilardi comes up, but with the big power play goal. And that really was the difference, Dave, in a game that didn't have a lot of power plays. If there was any time to score a power play goal, it was then. And look, the Sharks just don't have a lot of talent after, Tomas Hertl and Mikhail Granlund,
Granlund's a player. Granlund's a guy that bounces around. So I mean, you're right.
You're right. He's in the back nine, and let's give a shout out to Brandon's Kalen Addison. I thought he was good. He actually had a really good chance in the third period. Hellebuyck had to make a nice glove save, right, boys? So I mean, look, the Jets won this game 2-1. Would you like for them to have made it maybe a little bit larger of a deficit, sure. But they played pretty well except for one period, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with what Ezzy said there, Dave. I want your insight into this game. Look, it's not. I don't think this is an easy game to play when you play a team like the San Jose Sharks, especially when they're getting good goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
Saw that they were going to get the good goaltending initially. The Sharks are just, as you said, there's no identity. They're just a mishmash of players. Some are young players that are still on their way up. Other guys are on the back nine of their career. Other guys are established NHLers who would fit in on any team. I mean, that's really Thomas Hertl. He's the guy I'm speaking about there that would look good in any jersey. They're just when they're getting good goaltending, like they got tonight, it's difficult to stick with it. I mean, you sort of, I don't want to discuss the Leafs, but you sort of saw a similar situation last night between the Leafs and the Anaheim Ducks, where
some goalie,
Lucas Dostal.
No, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Though.
No, what did you say? I'm sorry.
The NHL.com headline.
No, Toronto Star.
Sorry, Toronto Star.
Or Toronto Sun. Toronto Sun. So Toronto said Leafs almost blanked by no-name goalie or something like that. And
that's really what the headline was.
Yeah, and the Ducks quote tweeted it. Anyways, it was funny.
Well, that is the kind of journalism we've come to expect from the good people at Post Media. But nonetheless, when you have a goaltender playing well, it's hard to sort of get through him, no matter how talent deficient they are in front of him.
Sure.
And that's what the Jets, I think, were experiencing for that first period. I mean, look, the first 15 minutes of this game, Dave. Yeah. The first 15 minutes of this game, the Jets were absolutely dominant. They had multiple shots, multiple scoring chances. If Mackenzie Blackwood doesn't start the game at an A+ level, it's 3-0 early on for the Jets, and this game is long gone and long over. Instead, the Jets had to sort of grind their way through, and San Jose is eventually going to have a push, and they did. In the final 5 minutes of the first, and a lot of the second, they were the better of the two teams. But to the Jets' credit, and I know we've been saying this like a broken record, a skipping CD or whatever, and a Wi-Fi.
You have to have the Panasonic Shockwave technology, Drew.
I was going to say a Wi-Fi unenabled phone or something. The Jets, just stuck with it, and they didn't get flustered at all when previous Jets teams, I have no doubt about it, would have been flustered in going up against Mackenzie Blackwood and not getting any success. So the Jets deserve kudos for that. And yeah, it's not the prettiest win they've had all year, but it's a 2-1 regulation time victory, and they don't leave anything on the table, and they keep the good times rolling.
Well, I think you said it. Like, they didn't get out of their system, really. I mean, you're right, Ezzy. There were parts of that game that you don't like, and there are parts that were definitely a bit of a snooze fest in that second period. But ultimately, Rick Bowness was asked about it, I believe, this morning, but he essentially was asked, like, do you like the way your team doesn't seem to change the structure? And we've talked about this for a while now, that they're staying within the framework of what this team wants them to do. They're not, foraying off into the distance and not sticking with what's working when they're down. And I think they said it on the broadcast, even when the Jets have been down this season, they've been able to come back. And, we saw it on the last time they were in California, where they were down 2-0 a couple of times and came back in those games. So it's this team is different, than ones in the past, in the sense that, when they do have a deficit, you're not thinking, well, this team can't do it. Now, 1-0 in San Jose is not a significant one. And, interestingly, the goal difference, San Jose does look like the best team in the NHL whenever the Jets play them. They give up 10 goals against every other team. Suddenly, their goal differential right now is -80. -80. Sorry,
I thought Dan was going to use it on the broadcast.
I was praying,
and I thought he was going to give you credit, but then he pulled the rug out from underneath you.
Did you not see, Drew? I didn't ask for credit for myself. I asked for credit for Illegal Curve.
Right.
Well, just for the folks who are wondering.
He's a company man through and through.
Not as much as Ezzy. Ezzy's the most company man, but I try to be sometimes. And the fact
the Ginsburg Company.
Yeah. but the fact of the matter is that Dan Robertson liked one of my tweets, and he jokingly tweeted back at me. He said, don't be surprised if a certain broadcaster steals that. I said, Dan, you're welcome to steal it. Just make sure on the show that you tell people to turn into the Illegal Curve post-game show after the game. I thought that was a fair trade.
I can't believe Dan didn't agree to those terms and conditions. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
That was the nicest thing on Twitter today. That was the nicest sentiment on Twitter.
Let's just focus on the hockey game.
We'll get to that. We'll get to the rest of the nonsense after the break. So we will address today in nonsense land, but that'll come after. That's more on Hartman and Perfetti and Russo and everybody.
Hartman got a little karma today, but anyways, again. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I was just
nonsense land. That was funny enough, the original title of this show, and then we went with Illegal Curve.
So, I mean, and Drew, it's funny because we were trying to figure it out, and then eventually got to the number 35 is the modern era record, because people have been saying that Illegal Curve has been saying it wrong, because we were under the impression it was 22 for the record of 3 goals or less consecutively, and so I actually don't know where we heard that. But we definitely
I'll
heard
take the blame on that. I heard it somewhere.
I heard it too.
I thought it was a reputable source, and I'll take the blame on that one.
Unless I was repeating your information, but regardless, we thought it was 22 by Tampa Bay.
And Dave, who would have thought that fakestats.com would have put out those misleading facts, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it turns out it's not 22, it's 35. So today the Jets matched the 2011-12 St. Louis Blues, who had 27 in a row, and they are going to be aiming for 35 straight games. That is held by the 2014-15 Minnesota Wild. I'm going to ask Ezzy some trivia in 1 second. And the non-modern era, going all the way back to Drew's birth date, back in the 28-29 season of 1900s, was the Boston Bruins, who coincidentally had 44 straight games allowing 3 goals or less in a season that lasted 44 games. So they were a little bit of a wagon, that Bruins team, and they won the Stanley Cup. So maybe that's an omen. But so here's the trivia: who were the 3 Wild goalies that contributed to that win, to that record?
Well, first of all, Drew was a big Dit Clapper fan growing up. Sorry, I was down the rabbit hole a little bit there.
Yeah, I could see you were going to. Yeah, who were the 3 Wild goalies in 14-15 who contributed that 35 game record for the modern era?
Oh, the 3 goalies. Yeah. Minnesota Wild.
By the way, this is for the chat too, if they want to.
Definitely not Manny Fernandez. I mean, that's going way back 2014-15. Why am I drawing a blank here?
Was Dwayne Rollison still there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got
Dwayne
one.
Rollison. Wow, that he was still around then?
Yep.
There's one.
Come on, guys. I want to Google this so bad.
No, you can't Google that, Ezzy. Come on. I'm always talking about your
2014. That was before Capo Kakinen. Way before him.
I'll give you a hint. One of them is Swedish.
Gustafsson?
No, he's the current goalie.
No,
it wasn't Rollison. No, sorry. I don't think it was Rollison, actually, Drew. Sorry. It wasn't Rollison. It was. No, sorry. Never mind. Now I know it. It wasn't Rollison.
It was Darcy Kemper.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, you guys can figure out the trivia on this one.
Come on.
Okay.
So Nicholas Backstrom, Darcy Kemper, and who?
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember myself.
Dave. It's 12:15 in the morning.
That was 10 years ago. Come with the answer. Some mediocre Minnesota Wild teams. That's what's funny about that is that was not like a powerhouse Wild team.
Dubnyk was the 3rd.
Oh yeah. Okay, I was drawing a blank, a real big blank, because I couldn't even come up with one of the goalies.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that trivia-related interlude. Let's get back to tonight's Jets game. A 2-1 victory over the San Jose Sharks. You remember, back in December when the Jets started in San Jose, they came out flat as could be. San Jose took it to them for the first, 10, 12 minutes of the game, and it was the role reversal tonight. I mean, I got a couple mentions here. Mason Appleton, who's snake bit, and really, not that he's a goal scorer, because we know that he doesn't have the goal scoring touch.
He was scoring goals earlier in the season.
Earlier in the year, but it's been a while, and you don't expect him to score very much. But he had a great opportunity 4 minutes into the first period, and I think what the setup was from Nino Niederreiter, if I'm not mistaken, a low to high play, and Appleton fires it on net, and Blackwood makes the save, and you see Appleton just throw his hands up into the air because you can tell he's so desperate for a goal, and he thought he had one on a stick there. And then about a minute and a half later, the Jets had 3 good chances in a row. Ehlers, Morrissey, and Vlad Nemestikov all bang, 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 and Blackwood again making those great saves.
Ehlers and Morrissey was back-to-back saves, but then Nemestikov's. I made a note. I take notes too, Drew. You're not the only one that takes notes.
Okay.
The Nemestikov one was a 3-on-1, and Blackwood made a glove save. So you're right. I mean, if the Jets bury one of those, then most likely this is a 4-1 game or a 5-1 game or something like that. So again, you made a good point. I mean, Blackwood kept the Sharks in it early. The Jets played really well, and then the push came in the second period. I made a note. Philip Zadina hit the post. 40 seconds in.
Yeah.
So I mean, this was a close game, score wise, at least for a while. But then the Jets took over, obviously, in the third period. But they could have been rewarded. And it's funny, guys. I'm sure we're going to talk about this, at some point in the show, if not now. I mean, how long did it take for Rick Bowness to go back to Scheifele, Ehlers, and Vilardi? Right? I don't think anybody expected Vlad Namestnikov to be the Jets' number one center for very long. But I mean, Scheifele, Ehlers, and Vilardi are just so good from a possession standpoint. And then obviously, they connected on the power play. But I think nobody's going to be surprised if Scheifele, Vilardi, Ehlers is back together for the Ducks game and moving forward for the rest of this road trip.
Yeah, I like why Rick Bowness did it. He found success in making that switch against Tampa Bay on, I guess that would have been Tuesday night now, and so you might as well stick with it. But you're right, it didn't. Scheifele, Scheifele just hasn't looked great the last number of games. Really, neither has Vilardi for that matter. Yes, they combine for the goal, the power play goal, the winning goal in tonight's game. But of the three of those guys, I would say Ehlers probably I thought was the most impactful of the Jets forwards of Scheifele, Vilardi, and Ehlers in tonight's game. I thought Ehlers had some good speed going and had a good touch, which speaks to this speaks to the fact that the Jets, Scheifele and Vilardi haven't been great for the last 4 or 5 games, haven't really been on the scoreboard at all, and yet the Jets haven't lost any of those games in regulation at the very least.
Well, that's because the mad line is filling in the blanks.
Right. So for those who might not follow you on Twitter, and folks, what are you missing out on? You're missing out on about 400
Is that
gems.
A thing? Do people not follow me on Twitter?
Well, why don't you explain to people what the mad line is now that you've coined it?
Well, Morgan, Axel,
and you forgot the third. Dominic. Dominic is his name. For God's sake.
He was very smart because David Gustafson could also fill in case he did goes that
exactly. Way. That's exactly what I had to do, Dave. I had to find a line just like the GST line when Peluso would come on that line, and it was the PST line for the provincial sales tax, right? Yeah. No, but I just was having fun with it. I mean, Drew, you're right. I mean, this fourth line, Dominic Toninato, I mean, how can you not cheer for this guy? I mean, he's played the majority of the season with the Moose. He's been that quote-unquote 13th forward, right? And the Jets have some injuries right now with Kyle Connor and Rasmus Kupari, and as Dave mentioned, the Gus Bus. I just thought it was fun to take the first letter of each one of those guys' name and call it the Mad Line. And then someone made a funny comment on Twitter that it's better than the MDMA line.
I thought of that too, actually.
So that's pretty funny. Also, the damn line works, but you're right, Drew. I mean, I was thinking about this as I was watching the game here in my basement by myself, just desperate for friendship. I mean, I was just thinking this is the first stretch of the season that Scheifele has really struggled at all. And Scheifele's having a great year. Scheifele's having an all-star caliber year. But yeah, these last 4 or 5 games just haven't been his best games. And, most players will go through a bit of a stretch, but I think you're right. That top line has not been excellent, but luckily, guys like Nick Ehlers, Vlad Namestnikov, Cole Perfetti, and the Mad line have been picking up the slack.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They're picking up the slack and they're carrying, when one line isn't, and that's why you can't be a one-line team or you can't be a one-dimensional team, because there are going to be some games where that team struggles or that line struggles that you rely so much on. And if you don't have anyone supporting them in behind, then you're going to struggle as a team. But the Jets have that, deeper bench and they have that support so that when, Scheifele, Vilardi, and Ehlers aren't going as well as they had been, then you have those other guys pick up the slack. Exactly like you mentioned there, Ezzy. So no score after 20 minutes, but I might as well, even though I'm late now, might as well start off the intro. It is the Betway game recap.
I'm like, that was quick.
Yeah.
The Betway game recap.
Big thank you to our friends at Betway for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. It is Friday morning, 20 minutes after 12 Central Time. Thanks to so many of you who are joining us for this Illegal Curve post-game show. You might think the numbers might dip because it's so late in the morning or early in the morning, late at night. Nah. You all showed up. You're all playing strong, just like Dave, Ezzy, and yours truly are, bringing you the latest on the Jets and the San Jose Sharks. If you haven't already done so, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're going to do it all again at the same time, even 30 minutes earlier on tomorrow night, or I guess later tonight, after the Jets and the Anaheim Ducks. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront with a large selection of betting options in sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds. What are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. So as we said, Jets dominated the first period. They were, I think, out shooting San Jose at a point in time 9-1 late in the period. And it really took until about 5 minutes left in the period for San Jose to have their first sustained push of the period. They don't get anything past Connor Hellebuyck either, but you get to see that they are going to skate their way back into the game. And that's what they did. 0-0 after 20 minutes, but then the Sharks came out as the better of the two teams, certainly to start the second period. As you mentioned it, 45 seconds into the period, Filip Zadina, he hits the post. About 45 seconds later than that, Mikael Granlund, Connor Hellebuyck has to make his best save of the game to that point in time, as the San Jose Sharks are beginning to push back on the Winnipeg Jets. It was evident that if the Jets could get zone time and and get in on the forecheck, meaning that they could get all three players in on the forecheck, San Jose had no response for them, and the Jets were able to cycle them to death. And there were different instances in each of the three periods where the Jets were able to do that and even get a bit of a line change in on that. San Jose had no option and no recourse for getting the puck out and or around the Jets when the forecheck was on, timing wise. But anytime San Jose had some room to skate, they're a decent skating team. You know, they have their warts, certainly, but they have some guys who can skate. Even Kalen Addison on the back end is a pretty good defenseman to move. So when there was some skating room, San Jose was at their most dangerous during those periods of the game, Dave.
I think that's perfectly put. And it's true, Drew. I mean, you expected San Jose to have some pushback. I mean, despite the fact that they have lost 9 games in a row, you know, there still are, as he went through in the preamble, there were still some NHL players on this roster, most likely to be traded at the trade deadline. So they'll continue to stink. But, you know, the Jets, I thought the Jets got a little complacent and got a little bit almost bored. They you know, it's almost like they didn't feel challenged. And look, Rick Bowness is never going to say, well, we're not going to disrespect our opponent and anyone can win. And he did say this, actually. Anyone can beat anyone in the NHL. Because what's he going to say? This team sucks. They suck as a bunch of sucks that ever did suck. He's not going to say that. Although he did drop a Seinfeld reference on Murat the last game. So, I mean, that was pretty spectacular. I got to give Rick Bowness credit for that one, because did not have 2024 starting with Rick Bowness saying dropping Seinfeldisms. But
good on Murat for having fun with it, right? Like, he changed his Twitter avatar. He's got it in his bio. Like, just shows you how great of a sense of humor Murat has. I agree, though. Great Seinfeld reference from Bones.
Yeah, that was a solid one. That wasn't like a guy who peripherally knows Seinfeld. That was a guy who has a deep knowledge of Seinfeld. So
he's watched a few epis on Netflix.
That's exactly it. So anyways, look, you expected them to have a little bounce and a little pressure, and eventually they get that one through. But, you know, again, the Jets had a good PK, right? The problem for the Jets was that they were, I just felt like they were getting a little complacent, a little stationary, a little bit, I don't want to say bored, but they just felt like like we felt it watching it. I can only imagine what it's playing like. And also the other thing that doesn't help is the crowd is not there. There's no real enthusiasm from the crowd, really.
Except for the dads and mentors who are on the trip.
Sure, of course. I'm not going to suggest otherwise. They had a couple
Jake
of boxes.
Morrissey was having a good time.
Yeah, of course.
They're spitting it. I mean, is it not eerie how much they look identical
Absolutely
to each other?
Identical.
I mean, I know they're siblings, but they have the same
Richard
hair,
Gere.
everything.
Anyway, so I mean, it just felt like San Jose was taking advantage of a lull, and that's what they were able to do. And sure enough, I mean, Connor Hellebuyck also, we have to mention, made just an absolutely phenomenal save. I didn't know how he kept that puck out of the net, because it looked like it was in. And then you're like, you understand how he's an all-star, because that was just an incredible stop by him. And he made a number of nice stops. But I mean, it's just from an unfortunate standpoint that the Jets, obviously they're tired. It's the very end of was it the Lowry penalty? I think it was Lowry was in the box, wasn't he?
Yes.
So Morrissey was in the box.
Sorry, hooking, right?
Yeah, Morrissey.
Morrissey. Yeah,
the second period penalty.
That's right. Yeah. So Morrissey hooks. So Morrissey's in the box for hooking. They kill the penalty. They get out, but those guys are a little bit tired. And like I said, they're a little stationary, and it's a nice shot. I mean, he finds them, he buries it, and the Jets are down 1-0 quickly.
Well, and I just wanted to say something here on this goal, because we talked about William Eklund, Dave. Like, he had a really good rookie season with the Barracuda, right? Like 40 points, something like that. He's having a quiet, like, breakthrough season. And we talked about it, right? Like Fabian Zetterlund, I think he's got 11 goals. Speaking of former Devils, like Anthony Duclair, he's got 7 goals. But it's just a mishmash of players. Like, it's not a team that has like the balanced scoring depth and forward depth like the Jets do. Like, the Jets have really good scoring lines. They have, their checking line, which is the Lowry line that can also score. The fourth line is maybe the best fourth line since, 2017, 18. But I mean, William Eklund's got speed. And we talked about, Drew mentioned this. I think I mentioned it too. Philip Zadina, people forget he was 6th overall, Dave?
Yeah. Exactly.
The pick of the Red Wings. So they have first round talents, right? And Kalen Addison was a first round pick, or an early second round pick of the Penguins. And then he was traded to the.
That's like dropping a Keaton Ellerby reference. At one point, he was a first round pick.
Well, no, but you know what I mean? Like, they have, look, they've won 6 or 7 games, something like that at home. Like, they're awful. Don't get me wrong. The Sharks suck.
And their home record, by the way, is their good record.
Rick Bowness might not say it, but I'll say it. The Sharks suck. Like, they're going to get a really good player in Vegas for the 2024 draft. Like, it's probably going to be, first, second, or third, something like that. But to me, it just looked like Morrissey got caught up a little bit in the neutral zone. I'm not sure if you're going to necessarily blame Morrissey, but look, Eklund has nice speed, and I think, does he go by I
think it was Appleton.
Was it Appleton first, and then Appleton gets lost, or no, I think it was Nemesnikov. It was
Appleton and Nemesnikov. It's hard to say exactly who had responsibility.
They kind of just lost
Barabanov.
They just lost Barabanov, is what I was going to say, Drew. So, good on William Eklund. That was speed. He created, that opportunity with the speed, and it's a nice pass. And look, it goes through Connor Hellebuyck's legs. Connor Hellebuyck is having one of his best years ever. He's going to the All-Star game, so congrats to Connor Hellebuyck. I'm not sure if we're going to talk about his dad's 3D printing YouTube channel. I'm not sure if you guys saw that.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Ezzy, because I saw the Jets, use one of his tweets, and I quickly looked at his thing just for like 2 seconds. I saw he did like a bunch of 3D printing, but then I got
like 13,000 followers on Twitter, Dave. He's as big as you are.
Ooh, it's time to bring him in. We're doing a collab.
Yeah. Well, he can 3D print us some IC merch or something like that. Some IC gear. We'll get him working on that. But you're right. So the Sharks do open the scoring. It's at the 10:26 mark of the second period. It's Barabanov, his third assist to Eklund, and Emberson, who is not Nelson Emerson. Rather, it is Ty Emberson, one of the litany of less than household names on the back end for the San Jose Sharks. But the Sharks, do take that 1-0 lead, and they get full marks for it because they were the better of the two teams, I would say, to that point of the second period. And with the way Mackenzie Blackwood has been playing so far in this game, you can't help but think, how easy or how quickly are the Jets going to be able to respond? But as we've seen from this team night in and night out so far this year, they get punched in the jaw, and all they do is they don't go down, they just punch back harder. And they did a minute and 22 seconds later. Morgan Barron, his 8th of the year, assist to Neil Pionk and Brendan Dillon. And it's not pretty, and you knew it wasn't going to be pretty necessarily to beat Blackwood 5-on-5. It's a shot and a lot of traffic, and it starts with the Jets winning a puck battle down low, and Neil Pionk gets the shot through, and Barron is in front of Blackwood, and it sort of pinballs and deflects, and squeaks over the line before anybody can scoop it away that's wearing a teal jersey. But, kudos to Morgan Barron for going exactly where he needed to go to take the eyes of Blackwood
where
away.
Joe Pascucci told him to go.
Right in front of the net. Exactly right. And kudos to Neil Pionk, who I thought played a very good game tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. For a guy who's oftentimes
fresh off being called a star by a certain team of excellent all-star selectors. Just saying.
What is that? I have no idea what that means, Dave.
Well, he was a star of the game in the game against the Lightning. He obviously has a lot of confidence as a result.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I had no clue where the hell you were going with that one. But my point being that,
Neil
Pionk,
Desi and I.
Yeah, Neil Pionk, who oftentimes can be a little chaotic at both ends of the ice, was not that in tonight's game by my estimation. I thought he was just aggressive where he needed to be aggressive, stepped up, laid the body a couple of times, and certainly, tried to, do the right things on the offensive side of things for the Winnipeg Jets, and they get rewarded to tie the game up at 1 at just, basically at the halfway mark of the second period, as
Yeah, I mean, Pionk, he was one of the guys I made a note of that I thought had a really solid game. Just knocking down pucks and not really letting anybody get around him. He made a play on Mikael Granlund where he just, Mikael Granlund tried to move around him, and obviously Granlund's a smaller player, but I mean, Pionk is having a great bounce back year. And you're right. I mean, in a game in which, the Jets probably should have had a goal or two in the first period. I mean, that type of greasy goal was kind of to be expected, right? You knew that the Jets weren't probably not going to score a beautiful goal to tie the game up, right? So, yeah, like Barron, Janssen Fjällby, the Dominic Toninato, as you mentioned, cycle the puck, get the puck back to the point, crash the net, and the game is tied. And then all of a sudden now you have the momentum because the Jets know that, the Sharks are not a very good offensive team. They're not a very good defensive team either.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that is kind of the definition of just a hard-working goal. And a lot of these goals that have been scored by the fourth line, whether, it's with David Gustafsson on the fourth line or whether it's Dom Toninato on the fourth line. So, I mean, we had the comment up earlier, I forget if it was Joe from Winnipeg or someone else, is this the Jets' best fourth line ever? I mean, that's debatable, right? Because in 2018, who was it, Dave? It was Brian Little, Matty Perreault, it was Adam Lowry, actually, I think, right? And Matty Perreault, and maybe who else was on that line? I forget. But this is definitely one of the best fourth lines, put it that way, whether it's Gustafsson or Toninato or Rasmus Kupari.
Wasn't it Yuri Tlusty?
It could have been.
No, wasn't it Lee Stepniak?
It might have been Lee Stepniak. You might be right.
Lee Stepniak was that was the 2015 when they played the Ducks. It was Lee Stepniak.
Shout out to Jay Harrison as well.
Yeah, there you go. There's another old name if we're naming old
players. I'm pretty sure Jay Harrison got traded for future considerations to the Blackhawks. After that,
the Blackhawks.
Yeah, didn't he get traded afterward? I think the following season, the Jets/Moose traded him to the. I think he was traded for future considerations, if I recall correctly.
After they acquired him from, I remember they acquired him from Carolina because they had a litany of injuries on the back end.
Yeah. He was just depth, but then I think he eventually got assigned, and then, or maybe he was with the Moose to start the next year, and then they traded him to Chicago.
Well,
Joe Pascucci. We always know that who's got the right answer.
Yeah, Joe's got the answer. Hendricks, Armia, and Perreault was
Hendricks.
Well, the reality is, right, like it changed a little bit. I mean, I think Yuri Tlusty might have been a few years earlier. I feel like was like
Tlusty was like in the 2013.
Okay. I'm a bit early.
Yeah, but the point is, Matty Perreault was on the fourth line.
There you go. That's the important part.
And the point Drew's trying to make is like the fourth line, whether it's or the third line or whoever. I mean, Scheifele and Vilardi, as we talked about, they were red hot, for weeks, and they cooled off, and now other players are picking up the slack. And that's why, again, we're a brokered record, but that's why this forward depth keeps coming into conversation here, because Kyle Connor is out of the lineup, and it's like the Jets have not even missed a beat. They're playing better, actually. Well, so it's really incredible what they're doing, despite the fact that some of their best, like we talked about Mason Appleton, he's struggling to put the puck in the net, right? Scheifele, Vilardi, these guys are struggling a little bit, but I mean, it seems like, they keep getting goals from other sources, whether it's a Neil Pionk, whether it's a Morgan Barron. And Dave mentioned this. Good on Barron, 8 goals in less ice time per game, and he's on the fourth line. So, I mean, Barron, you have to give him props. He's having a great first half of the season.
Yeah, as he's right. He scored 8 goals, matching his career high from last year in like 37 fewer games. And he's doing it with about 3 minutes less of ice time. And of course, I got accused of, when I mentioned that, because I just thought it was an interesting factoid, and everybody knows I love factoids. So I put it in there. And then Vern gave me a little shout, like a little shove saying, are you arguing for ice time? I'm like, I'm not lobbying for ice time for anyone. A, I don't care. But B, it's because I just think it's an interesting thing that he's doing more with less. So
there you go.
He then answered that he said he added an LOL. So I should have understood that it was a,
also, Drew, can your shirt be less unsettling?
Look, I
He's worn that
understand
one
why
before,
my
though.
shirt is unsettling. It's unsettling because it's not necessarily in keeping with my on-air persona, which isn't smiley happy. For the record, though, people, I am generally a nice guy off the air. You know, if you ever have an opportunity to meet me, and some of you have,
Seemingly.
I'm generally, generally a nice person. But I decided to wear the smiley face on air because I know we're going to start talking about some more sensitive topics and some topics that can get people a little bit heated up. We'll do that after the commercial break. So I thought I'd wear the smiley face to sort of see if I can do a counterbalance to when we get talking about the things that made people go cuckoo bananas online earlier today. That's the logic behind my thinking regarding the smiley face. Anyways, after 40 minutes, the score is tied at 1 goal apiece. The question is, who's going to be victorious in the third and or overtime? And for so many games this year, the special teams cost the Winnipeg Jets. This tonight is an instance where they won the special teams battle, outscoring the San Jose Sharks 1-0. Only 2 power plays for the Sharks, only 1 power play for the Jets, but they make the most of it. It comes at the 3:14 mark of the third period. It's the game-winning goal. Filip Zadina is in the box for hooking, and Gabe Vilardi gets both the game-winning goal and the Seagram's shot of the game.
The Seagram's shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Whatever you may be drinking, be it now watching us or be it tomorrow when you are enjoying the Illegal Curve post-game show following the Jets and the Ducks, we do encourage you to drink one of the great products from Seagram's, perhaps Seagram's 83, Manitoba's favorite Canadian whiskey. Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support of the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Zadina in the box, as I mentioned, he takes a hooking penalty on Adam Lowry. Lowry was heading downhill, and he was a bit of a truck on this play. Zadina had only one option, and that was to hook him on the ensuing Jets power play after having a significant amount of zone time where they were controlling the entire pace of play and had a number of opportunities. The puck comes to Mark Scheifele. He feeds it over to Nikolai Ehlers, and one of the best seam passes you're going to see. Ehlers puts it right on the tape of Gabe Vilardi, who is, maybe half an inch away from the blue paint. And he deposits it behind Mackenzie Blackwood. 2-1 for the Winnipeg Jets. Just an absolute glorious execution on the much maligned Jets power play, Ezzy.
Yeah, they absolutely needed that one. And right before Vilardi scores, right, Morrissey goes to Ehlers. Ehlers misses the net, and then Ehlers backs up, goes to the point. And then, as you mentioned, Vilardi is right beside the net, and obviously, not very good defensive coverage by the Sharks. But yeah, I agree with you 100%, Drew. All the pressure was on the Sharks. It was a really good-looking power play. Everything that we've talked about throughout the season that has been wrong with the power play. You saw quick movement. You saw. I thought it was like passes and it was just with a purpose. And Ehlers continues his strong play, and Vilardi hasn't necessarily been playing his best hockey, but he picks the perfect time to score the winning goal. So that was huge, and that's still an issue here. A lot of people think, that myself included, if the Jets can get their special teams in order, at the very least be slightly above average. I mean, that's going to be the difference between, the Jets finishing second and third in the Central or first in the Central, right? Because this Jets team, what do they have? 52 points now, right? Or 50 points?
52.
You could be talking about 110 to 115 point season here, the way they're trending, right? And a power play goal here, a power play goal there. I mean, that's going to be the difference, David, like 4 points, 6 points. This Central Division is going to be tight all year. Obviously, Colorado beat Dallas. So, I mean,
in OT.
Of course, that game went to
that was
OT.
the worst possible scenario. But I mean, Drew always joked.
But everybody else lost.
Well,
I think, except for one team.
But I mean, the only teams that really matter in the as far as I'm concerned, the Jets are going to finish first, second, or third in the Central, and they're going to have to play one of Colorado, Dallas, most likely in the second round, right? Because if the Jets win the division, of course they'll play like Nashville or Arizona who are in the wild card spots, right? But I mean, the point is that the Jets got the power play goal. The power play was not very good against Tampa Bay. They got some chances, but they didn't score any goals. So I mean, that was huge. And the Jets got these 2 points, as Drew mentioned. I mean, you didn't want this game to go into overtime. I mean, just considering the type of hockey we were watching, more so than you don't want to leave it till overtime. But that was just a nice pass by Ehlers, nice finish by Vilardi, and I mean, hopefully that leads to some more power play goals on this road trip.
Well, and the only thing I was just going to add is, they needed the first line needed a little bit of power play success because what's going on here? Drew, did you change this?
Sorry, I think I hit the wrong button.
Boy, Drew, you can tell Drew's up to something, but I don't know.
Unsettling.
Yeah, what's going on? That's the K&R view, not the IC view.
I say the camera adds 15 pounds, Dave. In my case, it adds 35 pounds.
So, look, I just think that they need, and it was a laser beam pass by Nikolai Ehlers, has been pointed out by the chat. So you like to see that, but you like to see Vilardi. Vilardi's tried that a lot, right? Where he tries that little move where he goes down to the knee right beside the net, tries to just redirect the puck that's slapped past onto his stick. And this time he's successful. And you can just see that there's a bit of a relief that those guys finally broke through, got the monkey off their back. And it's an important power play goal. I mean, you can say San Jose's a bad team. Sure, that's fine. But the reality is that they were 1-1 with Winnipeg. And it took till the third period to take a 2-1 lead. So, like I said, the Sharks are a solid team. There's no solid in the sense that they played the Jets solidly. They're not a solid team, obviously, but they played. It's almost like, and I think Ezzy made this point, and I think it's a good one. It's almost like teams are getting up for Winnipeg now. Winnipeg might not be wanting to lower themselves to these teams, but San Jose looked like they had a little bit, again, not in the first really, but in that second period, a little bit in the third, like trying to get something going because they knew it was a close game at 1-1, obviously, or 1-0, but then 1-1 specifically. So, like I said, it's a tight game. It's a good win for the Jets. It's a good way for them to start the Mentors trip because, of course, I think the last time when they did a mom's trip, I think they lost all 3 games. So that's not exactly the way to go. So those guys didn't want to be told by the 30-something coaches that are along for the ride what they did wrong all game long. So this way they can enjoy it, go to Anaheim, and get ready for the Ducks tomorrow night.
Yeah, and Connor Hellebuyck again made some key saves in that third period when he was called upon to make them. They didn't have to carry the team single-handedly, but he was all-star Connor Hellebuyck because he made the saves that he needed to make, and he was seeing the puck well tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. And as a result, after the early third period goal, the Jets were very effective, I thought, at minimizing San Jose's chances, and they kept everything to the outside, including killing off that Scheifele penalty that could have hurt them in the third period. A penalty where, one of the few times that you can really think of Scheifele having a bit of a lazy play in the course of this season so far, but the Jets kill it off. And as a result, they end up with the 2-1 victory over the San Jose Sharks. Go ahead.
I jokingly tweeted, which I'm sure you saw, but I'm going to bring it up here because I want to get your insight.
Just don't ask me who the wild goaltenders were in 2004.
Who are the wild goaltenders in 2004 and 2006? No. So the one area that the Jets continue to struggle, and you can suggest that it's not important, whatever, faceoffs.
Yes.
Their faceoffs were abysmal. I think they were like
30%.
Yeah, it was under 40% for sure. And it was in the 30s, somewhere in the 30s. That's
30% is exactly what it was.
I jokingly said, who's the best faceoff man of all time? I'm not saying they need to hire Jonathan Toews to be on the team.
Yeah,
they might want to. Jonathan Toews, I think, has the highest percentage of all time. But the point is, he must be tooling around a rink somewhere in Winnipeg or Kenora. Bring him in, hire him, and fix your faceoffs, because let me tell you, they're not very good right now.
Pretty sure.
And that's why, I mean, this is maybe a Saturday topic.
I'm kidding,
boys. We've got the Saturday morning show coming up in less than 48 hours, but that's why I have kind of done I've changed my opinion on what the Jets really need prior to the trade deadline. I'm on the 2C second line center bandwagon now.
Saturday.
Well, I would have no, but a lot of that, Drew, has to do with faceoffs. Vlad Nemesnikov is not a good faceoff guy. I mean, just look at Nemesnikov's stats, not only this year, but in previous years. And I mean, we know Adam Lowry is the Jets' best option here. Mark Scheifele has never been a guy that you would say is a great face-off guy. He's not the worst, but what is he kind of around usually, guys? 45%? Something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's all I'm saying is these are things like, yes, we're excited. The Jets are one of the best teams in the NHL. What are they, 2 points out of first overall? Like, that's really impressive. But the special teams and the face-off, I mean, these are the key areas that the Jets need to work on. They need to get better in those areas.
Look, I have no problem with if they acquire somebody who is better
As his
right
in
in the face-off circle,
Yep.
but that can't be
Monahan.
the only. That can't be the only reason why they acquire that player. Is my perspective on that.
Of course.
Yeah,
I like how people want Lindholm, but I mean, Lindholm's going to come with a big price. Let's be real. So,
well, Tomas Hertl's another guy that's been thrown out there, but what does he make? $7 million a year, $8 million a year with 2 years left.
I'm not so sure the cap is going to work in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chevy's going to acquire a really good player that nobody expected that they would acquire, right? Like, everyone's going to be searching over the next 2 months for the next Paul Stastny, right? This year's Paul Stastny. I think Chevy probably has a few guys on his list. But I don't know if he's going to go out and acquire a guy that has 2 or 3 years left on his contract at $7 or $8 million a year.
Hertl's got 7 years left on his contract, so I think that's
Does he have 7 years left.
Well, he signed that big extension right before San Jose thought. Remember, it was last year, I think. San Jose still thought of themselves as a playoff team until then they collapsed and they had to tear it down. So that's when they signed him to that big contract extension.
Yeah, Lindholm's a rental, of course.
Lindholm would be a pure rental likely because he's UFA at season's end.
Lindholm has not been good the last couple of years though.
No, his number, he wants $9 million and his numbers have taken a precipitous drop in the last couple of years. So again,
good player, but I don't know if that's the right fit.
Because there's a huge cost there, of course.
Well, Calgary's going to ask a huge cost, but this is all better conversations for Saturday morning rather than right now. So let's the Jets do win tonight's contest. It's a 2-1 victory over the San Jose Sharks, a clean 2 points. That makes it 10 games in a row now where the Jets have earned points in the midst of this current streak. And as a result of tonight's victory, I believe, does that mean that they leapfrog the Colorado Avalanche, if I'm not mistaken? Or no, they are still a point behind Colorado.
Didn't Colorado beat Dallas in overtime?
Sorry, Colorado won in regulation.
Drew's taking points away from Colorado.
I'm not. But the Jets do put 3 points now between them and the Dallas Stars, having played the same number of games. Both the Jets and the Stars have played 2 fewer than the Colorado Avalanche. So, things still going well, things still rolling for the Jets and really the top 3 teams in the Central Division when you consider them as a whole. When we come back on the Illegal Curve post-game show, 5 days later, somehow Ryan Hartman and Cole Perfetti and Brendan Dillon have still managed to monopolize the attention of the hockey world. We'll talk about that next. We'll talk about some really bad tweeting by people who should know better and some really bad analysis by players who you would hope would know better, or at the very least that the broadcasting network would have better options than put these people on the air. And no, I'm not talking about Jen Botterill. We talk about that next. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. It's 10 minutes to 1 on Friday morning. You're already awake. We're just getting started. Don't go anywhere. This is the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Your coworkers love you because you always make them laugh. You're the life of the party with stories that have them rolling on the floor. Or maybe you're just the quiet one in the corner with the one-liners that just slay. Do you have what it takes to become Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job? Try your luck. Hit the stage at Rumors Comedy Club, and you could be walking away with $1,000 cash. Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job, presented by Rumors. For all the details, head to rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
The game can change just like that. Accidents happen when you aren't protected. So now what? Getting to your injury quickly can make all the difference. Help prevent them from being game changers with Linden Market Dental Center. Bonding, crowns, bridges, and dental implants. State-of-the-art treatments are available to help you get back in the game. To learn more, visit lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boston Pizza harnessed Fanalytics to test if the game is better at home or at Boston Pizza. The results are irrefutable. Catch the game at Boston Pizza, powered by Fanalytics.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the illegal curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Friday morning, welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you.
The show's still on.
The show's still on. Jets win 2-1 over the San Jose Sharks. Couple programming notes for you. The next Illegal Curve post-game show will be later tonight at around 11:30 p.m. Central Time, following the Jets and the Anaheim Ducks. The three of us, presumably the three of us at least, will get back together and talk about what happens between the Jets and the Ducks. And then on Saturday morning, it'll be the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. back here on our YouTube channel. We'll be joined by Jeff Hamilton.
The Hammer.
The Hammer is going to join us to talk about the Jets. And I believe, Ezzy, you also said that it's going to be
Frankie
Corrado. Thank you.
Yep.
Frankie Corrado.
Analyst. He's been doing some Jets games throughout the year.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk to Frankie about the Jets, and I'm sure we might touch on the Ryan Hartman-Perfetti situation, maybe talk a little Leafs, whatever comes up.
Probably not a lot of Leafs, but yeah, we'll talk about that with Frankie Corrado. He's going to join us on Saturday morning, and then the Jets and the Coyotes will play Sunday night, which means a post-game show. I think that's a 6 o'clock Central start time, so about 8:30 on Sunday night. So a very busy time ahead with regard to your time spent with us at Illegal Curve. So that's why you should make sure you're subscribed. Thank you. That was the word I'm looking for. Subscribed to the YouTube channel. It's amazing that this Ryan Hartman, Cole Perfetti, Kirill Kaprizov, Brendan Dillon, Michael Russo, Jamal Mayers, Sam Cosentino, Jennifer Drew Mandel discussion is continuing. I mean, it's in the world today, when we have attention spans that usually last 5 minutes, if not 10 minutes at most, this one's still going 5 days later.
Too long.
It's way too long. It's way out of hand. So let's start with the Sportsnet panel that aired last night, where they dubbed it, I guess it's a new segment they're doing called Locker Room. It featured Jamal Mayers, who used to play in the NHL. It featured Sam Cosentino, who never played in the NHL. It featured Jennifer Botterill, who, as everyone knows, is one of the world's greatest female hockey players, world's greatest hockey players. I said
this years ago. She should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
No question about it. And one day she hopefully will be. And they were debating the appropriateness of the actions involved. And I took Jamal Mayer's point, he had a number of points, and he was all over the place, and he wasn't necessarily the most articulate person I've ever heard.
Shocker.
I know, shocking.
They were points, Drew. They were terrible points. But...
So his primary point in starting the segment was that Hartman was justified in what he did to Cole Perfetti because he's sending a message to the Jets that if the Jets go after the Wild best player, all-star player in Kirill Kaprizov, then turnabout is fair play. That's basically what he was articulating in his point. And he was talking about that, Dylan's, he actually said, and I wrote it down as a quote, Brendan Dillon's second cross-check to Kaprizov, which presumably was the one that injured Kaprizov, was just as vicious as Ryan Hartman's high stick on Complacency.
Is that the worst take ever?
I think it gets worse, and I don't think he improved from that point in time. I thought he got worse with his points of view at that point in time. Then he started talking about how what he has done, what Hartman has done, has now instilled fear in Complacency and the Winnipeg Jets, and they kept saying this repeatedly. Apparently, neither of them have ever looked at the standings. When I say neither of them, I mean both Mayers and Sam Cosentino both kept saying that the Jets and the Wild may meet in the playoffs.
Yeah, could meet in the playoffs.
Yeah, it could be. And
Drew, in their defense, quickly, it's possible in 24-25 that those two teams could meet in the playoffs.
And boys, I also might meet Taylor Swift.
Yeah, exactly right. And so my comment about that this was justified because they might meet in the playoffs. The only chance the Minnesota Wild have of the playoffs at this point, and you can throw these words back at me if you want to, is if they drive 7 hours north to Winnipeg at the end of the season to watch the Jets in the playoffs. So Minnesota Wild are not going to be a playoff team this year.
No.
When you factor in their injuries, their cap issues, everything about that roster is not a playoff roster, even in the weakened Western Conference. Whatever, forget about the playoff argument. But I just thought they embarrassed themselves.
Yep.
With what they were saying. And Jen Botterill, and again, I don't have a problem with physical play. I don't have a problem with things that are borderline. But to me, what Brendan Dillon did to Kirill Kaprizov should have been penalized. I have no problem if the officials had penalized that. They didn't, because that play happens in the course of the game a lot of times per game. It's not a one-off thing. It's not.
And also Kaprizov cross-checks Dillon right after he gets cross-checked. That seems to be lost here. Issue boy Bruce, our boy, brought it up. Context is important here. I should mention I was in Mexico and I wasn't watching this game live, so I just saw all the highlights. But I've put together the sequence of events here. But anyways, Drew, continue on.
I'm just, you're right. It was a play in the course of the game. Now, if the powers that be in the NHL want to get rid of that play, well, they have that authority to do so, and they can crack down on it at any point in time. But because it's not like Brendan Dillon did something unbelievably vicious that then needed to be responded to. And then on top of it, it was responded to. Yeah. Exactly the point. And somehow that got lost in the course of the braying from from Cosentino and Mayers on the Sportsnet panel.
There were two fights.
There were two fights in the game. You're right. Brendan Dillon
fought two fights over the next 2 days, right? Because Lowry fights Patrick Maroon. So you're absolutely right, Drew. Like, look, Jennifer and I went off a little bit on Tuesday night after the Lightning game. Mm-hmm. These are two completely separate events that they seem to link incorrectly, mm-hmm. right? It's Ryan Hartman's play on Complacency was cheap. It was just cheap and had no purpose. It didn't serve any purpose. Now the whole Kaprizov Dillon thing, I mean, we've kind of gone over this, right? Dave went over this. I'm not sure if Drew, which post game you were on, but I'm sure you guys touched on this. Look, we did. Kaprizov's injured. It was a freak accident. Dillon did not try to injure him, just like Logan Stanley did not try to injure him when he fell on him. He happens to be, 6'7", 200 plus pounds. That was a freak accident that Kaprizov admitted. He didn't, think Logan Stanley did anything wrong. The whole thing with Jamal Mayers and Sam Cosentino is they just had a bad point. To think that it's okay to high stick a player, this is what my point was. He could have taken his eye out. That's just a cheap play. And then Ryan Hartman the next game slashes Rasmus Andersson, and he doesn't get anything. I don't even think there was a penalty. Maybe a penalty on the play. There was no fine, no suspension.
He slashed Anderson and he punched Tanner Glass, I think it was.
Yeah, Tanner Glass.
Maybe not Tanner Glass.
No, you're talking about what's his name? from
It must be 1 a.m. because Tanner Glass has been out of the NHL for 7 or 8 years.
Mindy got a little excited about the GST line, Ezra, from earlier.
He punched somebody on Calgary.
He did punch somebody. He did.
In the same sequence of events, he punched after he two-handed Anderson. He punched somebody on Calgary. You're right. It wasn't Glass. My brain isn't cooperating right now.
Well, the point is, he punched somebody. He punched somebody.
Lewis. That's exactly who it was. Matt
Trevor Lewis,
former Winnipeg Jet legend, Trevor Lewis. And the reality is, guys, Ryan Hartman is Matt Cooke. That's who he's turned into. He's Matt Cooke. He's just a cheap player. But Drew, going back to what you said. Jamal Mayers at one point in that panel said it's not archaic, and Jennifer Botterill said it was archaic. It was, because that type of opinion is maybe an opinion you would have 30 years ago. Like, you can't high stick a player.
Yeah.
And anyways, what message does that send? That I'm a cheap player, and I obviously can't score a goal, but I can be cheap. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. This should be over. It's, there was a couple fights that should have settled it. Right. And the whole Ryan Hartman, I honestly, you can make the argument he shouldn't be in the league anymore. The Department of Player Safety has allowed this to happen by not holding players accountable. He should have been suspended, not just fined. And he probably should have been suspended for what he did to Rasmus Anderson.
Well, that was old though, Ezzy. I think that clip that was going around that someone clipped, that was from a previous. I don't think it was yesterday's game. I think for whatever reason they were playing Calgary, so someone tweeted it out.
Okay,
but I'm pretty sure it was an old. Remo just said that, and I'm pretty sure it was an old clip from like last year. But the fact of the matter is,
I didn't know that. I apologize.
It doesn't make a difference. It's still indicative of character, and more importantly, if you want to talk about character, I mean, guys, what did Hartman do to Nikolai Ehlers? I mean, all this bitching and bemoaning about losing Dylan-Kaprizov in a season that doesn't matter because you're done anyways. So I mean, don't get me wrong. They were doing well when they came up against the Jets, but now they've lost 4 in a row. So they
lost tonight to Tampa Bay too.
Right. So that's 4 losses in a row, right? I think.
Yeah.
So
two to the Jets, 1 to the Flames, and 1 to the Lightning.
That's right. So the fact is that you've lost 4 in a row, but Kaprizov, sure, he's an important player. I'm not going to suggest otherwise, but the Jets lost Ehlers. And it's almost like that's forgotten news. Like, they didn't lose him. They lost him for the rest of the regular season and the first 4 playoff games. So, like, again, let's not pretend like when they're clutching their pearls and they're like, oh my God, there's violence. Like, your guys committed violence. I mean, it's not like this idea. Just wait, this idea that it only happened one way. Again, at the end of the day, I don't really care. I mean, I'm with Ez. The fact of the matter is, Dylan answers to Middleton. So that does it. Now, we don't know the severity of the injury after the game on Sunday. All we know is that it's questionable. Then we find out on Saturday. On Sunday, you find out he's going to be out 1 to 2 weeks. So again, I can understand the impact of that, but at the same time, you send Lowry out to fight Maroon, or Maroon fights Lowry, whatever it is. So then it's done. I mean, Rick Bowness said as much. He's like, well, it's done. And of course, remember, Rick Bowness at the time when he's answering questions about it doesn't know that it was intentional. And the only reason we found out was because it was mic'd up, and Complacency, after being asked, which is an important key point because people are acting like Complacency is a snitch. And I'm like, how's he? I was there. He didn't say to one of us, hey guys, you should ask me about being mic'd up. First of all, if anybody watched, which 90% of the media do after games, not us, of course, because we're doing this show, they would have watched Adam Lowry do media availability, and behind Adam Lowry's shoulder, it said 91 mic'd up.
Right.
So
which
anybody
know about also.
Well, first of all, they're told in advance of the game, so they knew already. That's not the point. The point is that, this idea that it's going to instill fear and so I mean, again, like at the same time, I think the NHL is going to come down on both teams. I think they're going to really set a strong sort of message to anyone who does any shenanigans February 20th, especially if the Jets release the audio in that next episode of Runway. But at the end of the day, I just think it's going to be an interesting how it plays out, because for my mind, it should be done now. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to get more mad at Perfetti because your admission got caught on tape, even though it can't be admissible.
Right.
Not a court of law, but even though it's not admissible. So, I mean, again, like I said,
it's a kangaroo court, though.
I'll be honest with you. The whole thing's kind of stupid, and I'm kind of done with it. Like I was going to tweet that this morning, but everybody was all riled up. So I don't want to cost us any views tonight, but I'll be honest with you guys. I'm over it.
And the reason why they got riled up this morning is because of this tweet, which I don't know if I can make big enough, but let me see if I can make it bigger. From Michael Russo.
Attaboy. That was some nice zooming, Drew.
Thank you. Every now and then I know what I'm doing. So have to hand it to the Jets for airing. Michael Russo is a journalist with The Athletic. And I'm not here to denigrate Michael Russo. He's covered the NHL, various teams for many years. He's a well-regarded journalist who has completely lost his shit about this Kirill Kaprizov.
I think he also told a Jets fan to F off.
He did. He lost his shit. He's completely lost his mind about this, and he's gone far beyond the pale and has gone beyond being a journalist over to whatever this is that we're showing on the screen.
It's homerism, Drew.
It's blatant homerism, and I've had people been texting me, fellow journalists, and I'm not going to out any of them who they are because they sent me private messages, so it's not for me to publicly disclose it, who've just said that, his behavior is embarrassing to the profession. It's beyond what's acceptable. Have to hand it to the Jets for airing Hartman's alleged admission publicly. I'm going to stop right there. The Jets did not air anything, have not aired anything. No one has heard the audio yet. Media, our trained media, Michael Russo being a member of the trained media, knew that Cole-Perfetti was mic'd up. Every single journalist, anybody with a brain really, if given the opportunity to ask Cole-Perfetti about the incident, would ask questions related to that. So they did what every journalist is trained to do. The Jets, and I don't have to carry the water for True North, and you all know me very well to know that I don't do that, that I'm quite critical.
That's what Dave and I do that.
Yeah, that's right. That I'm quite critical of True North when I need to be. They have not done anything that does, where they're the bad guy on this one. Have to hand it to the Jets for airing Hartman's alleged admission publicly. He says alleged because we haven't heard the audio of it. Fine, I'll give him that. Distracted everyone from the fact that for the second year in a row, they targeted Kaprizov and knocked him out of the Wild lineup indefinitely.
You know what this is, Drew? This is like a conspiracy theory.
Well, the irony
there was a second shooter, has he?
The irony of this all is that last year, when Michael Russo asked Kirill Kaprizov about the run-in with Logan Stanley that caused that injury, Kaprizov said, "I hold no ill will. It was not intentional." Right. So in this instance, you have a journalist both talking out of both sides of their mouth in contradiction of one another. When that was pointed out to him, some people using language that would be more colorful than I would deem necessary or appropriate, he somehow managed to not respond to that while continuing on with these kinds of responses and conspiracies. I'm not condoning Ryan Hartman dangerously lifting his stick.
Well, first of all, can I just stop you there for a second, Drew?
Please.
Lifting his stick.
Right.
Now, I mean, Michael, lifting his stick. I mean, that sounds pretty namby-pamby. Again, it was a pretty hard slash to the face. Call it what it is. I mean, don't pretend like it's otherwise. I mean, everybody saw the video. Everyone. So it's not like,
and I also think he's saying here that Perfetti did it to himself.
Sure. I mean, I think he tried to disarm his comment by saying into an innocent kid's teeth. Wow, Michael, you're so kind to share that.
He high-sticked him. He high-sticked him. That was
and he did it on purpose.
That was a high stick.
Defended.
And again, this Hartman allegedly. So what reason do we have not to believe Cole-Perfetti? Everything about Cole-Perfetti's character and everything like that. Nobody says anything bad about Cole. Cole-Perfetti is the real deal. He's a good kid. He's an unbelievable hockey player who's having a breakout year. There's no reason to think he's dishonest. Like, to me, this is a conspiracy theory that is based in like Drew said, it's based in falsehoods.
And by the way,
the Jets didn't put this out there. Maybe he should take some lessons from Mike McIntyre, who's an award-winning journalist, by the way. He asked a question. Cole-Perfetti gave an answer. And now Michael Russo seems to be still defending Hartman, defending the Wild, and kind of defending his own kind of, he needs to just give it up and admit that he was wrong.
Well, sorry, I just want to add on one thing. Especially when he writes, especially the professional Twitter virtue signalers, I'm like, aren't you one of the primary examples of people who do that kind of stuff? So, like, not that I follow him, to be honest with you, but like at the same time, like, I'm honestly,
what exactly did we fall for?
Yeah. Well, again,
There's a reason why the Jets publicly aired this, and we have all fallen for it.
Yeah, well, look, Friedman on 32 Thoughts said that the Jets weren't happy with the result. Now, obviously, as we talked about before, and I'm going to pass out at this point, but like as we talked about before, boys, the reality is the Jets couldn't use the NHL, couldn't use the audio because that's part of the 2005 CBA. So it's not admissible in the decision with regards to Hartman.
But Dave, they shouldn't have had to use the audio. It's a high stick to the face. It should have been a suspension regardless of the audio.
Yeah, but you could say that happened. That play happens, and if he doesn't catch him in the face, it's just unintentional, whatever,
I'm fine with it not being a suspension, just like I'm fine with Brendan Dillon not getting anything, because those were plays that happen not infrequently in the course of a hockey game. Now, if the NHL wants to change how the game is enforced and how the rules are enforced, that's fine. And then maybe they become suspendable offenses. But to me, they were plays, they were dealt with, they were, people fought. We're done with this. I just don't understand why 5 days later, the Jets are all of a sudden, being thought of as having gone out and deliberately tried to injure their opponent. The only
if they're doing that, if they're doing that, aren't they doing it to like Nathan McKinnon?
Well,
aren't they doing it to someone who's going to have an impact on them?
I mean,
I'm just saying,
a damn good player, but they're not trying to deliberately injure. They're not trying to deliberately injure anybody.
Again, exactly. Drew, where's that based? Like, you can't base that claim on anything. That's what's dangerous about what Russo's doing. Brendan Dillon is a physical player. He can drop the gloves. He can score goals. He scored goals this year. He's a good veteran, top 4 NHL defenseman. What did he do that would make you think that it was premeditated or intentional? Nothing.
The only
it wasn't intentional.
The reverse hit by he was pissed off. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that because he didn't like the reverse hit by Kaprizov. But I mean, again, as he gave him a shot in the corner. I mean, it happens. Honestly, how many times in today's game did we see a guy give a guy a shot in the corner? I mean, did you
guys see what happened with Jason Zucker and Nick Cousins?
Yes.
Yeah.
To me, that should have been 10 games.
Well, but then they don't. I don't disagree with you. They just don't call it that way. But one more thing, I don't have the tweet handy, but in a previous tweet, and you can go check out Russo's Twitter feed if you want, folks. He said that Brendan Dillon that the reason why Brendan Dillon cross-checked Kaprizov, and I'm quoting here, Dillon retaliated for being embarrassed by Kirill Kaprizov. I mean, did he watch different game than I did?
That's what I'm saying. I don't agree with that at all.
I just don't know that there's any evidence that would even, Brendan Dillon does that play more frequently than not. That's how Brendan Dillon defends.
Can I just make one last observation, and then I'm going to be done with this because I can't really talk about it anymore because I don't really care.
Like literally, Dave's going to fall asleep.
But like the Minnesota Wild are the 5th most penalized team. The Jets are like the
goon team.
But no, I don't. Just let me finish. The point is the Minnesota Wild are the 5th most penalized team. The Jets are the 25th most penalized team. Right. Now you could say it's a conspiracy because the NHL wants Winnipeg to succeed. Nobody's going to buy that. So the reality is that the Jets just don't take a lot of penalties, and that's the truth. The Wild do, and look, they've got guys who are big, tough, and strong. There's some guys that I'm sure Jets fans, not Hartman, of course, but there's some guys that I'm sure the Jets fans would be okay with. But the fact of the matter is, it's, to pretend like somehow you're covering a team that's Lady Byng winners and the Jets are somehow a bunch of goon squads. I mean, what are we talking about here? The Jets aren't the Broad Street Bullies. I know that narrative, Ezzy. We always talk about it when teams from the East come and play the Jets. They're like, ooh, they're big and tough and physical. And I'm like, yeah, they were in 17-18 and maybe in 18-19, but that's not the same team. So anyways, I'm just saying, like, it's a farce to kind of go down this road. And to be honest with you, to answer them, to me, it's like, wrap it up. I know Kenny and Rennie are going to do stuff about this tomorrow. I don't really care, to be honest with you. My point is wrap it up and deal with it February 20th when these two teams play again.
Yeah, let me just ask you guys one final question on this one. Tomorrow, the Jets and the Ducks play each other. Do you get the impression that there's anybody on the Winnipeg Jets who's planning on going after Ryan Strome for the hit that took out Kyle Connor? No, probably not, because the Jets have better things to worry about right now, which is called winning games. winners win, losers look for excuses and whine. And I think we know that what's happening in the state of Minnesota. And if it was coming from the team, but it's not necessarily even coming from the team, maybe, unless they're using Russo as the mouthpiece.
Depends on where the hand is, Drew.
Right, exactly. That could very well be the case, that they're using Russo as the mouthpiece, and he's doing their work for them. But in any event, nobody from Michael Russo to Jamal Mayers to Sam Cosentino are putting themselves in a good light. And the only one who I thought really handled this with any credibility last night was Jen Botterill, who said there's a difference between tough and physical and cheap and dirty. And what Ryan Hartman did to Complacency was cheap and dirty. Tough Duck hardest hitting comment will wrap up tonight's post-game show.
The Tough Duck hardest hitting comment.
Ezzy, who gets it?
I wanted to give it to this fine person, the knee of KFC, saying that the Mad Line is the best damn line right now, because earlier today we talked about it. I called the Morgan Barron, Axel Janssen, Fjällby, Dominic Toninato line the Mad Line, but we're not going to give it to the knee of KFC. We're going to give it
that was a
little fake out.
No, I mean, it was a runner-up. That was an honorable mention, Drew. We're going to give it to Charlie Horse, something I think I have received in my junior high days. Looks like Barron is gaining some respect out there, goes in behind their net like a runaway train and gaining some elbow room. I like it. We talked about it. Morgan Barron ties his career high, right, Dave?
Yeah,
with his 8th goal in
Yep.
37 games. So he's obviously going to smash that. He's on pace for 15 or 16 goals right now. So Morgan Barron, he's having a great year for the Jets. Love that comment. Charlie Horse, if that is your real name, that would be amazing. But send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com, or slide into my DMs on X/Twitter with your mailing address information, and Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you. So congrats to Charlie Horse.
Fun fact. In the 80s, my uncle created a line of plush toys, and one of the toys was a horse with a broken leg on it that had a little crutch, and the horse's name was Charlie Horse.
Was this also is this where
It's
Manny
Uncle Ray.
Bison came from also?
No, well, no, different uncle, but this is my Uncle Ray. So this is this is an old family one.
My brother-in-law has one of those, by the way.
There you go. My aunt found a
Manny.
box in her house, and she gave them to me. So, the Mannies. No, she found a bunch of they were called Punimals, as you can probably tell. Yeah. And my other uncle, who is a pretty talented artist, he drew them all. And then my other uncle, who's was in that business, not in that business, but he has contacts. So
animal business.
I was going to say he wasn't in that business, but he had contacts who could make that kind of stuff. So there you go. Shout out to Uncle Ray.
There you go. Nice, nicely done by both of you to wrap up tonight's. To wrap up tonight's Illegal Curve post-game show. Laurent Brossoit gets the start for the Winnipeg Jets tomorrow night against the Anaheim Ducks.
Are you confirming that already, Drew?
Yeah, because Rick Bowness confirmed it earlier. So Laurent Brossoit gets the start for the Jets tomorrow night, 11:30 p.m. for the post-game show back here on our YouTube channel, and a Winnipeg Jets victory tomorrow night against the Anaheim Ducks will move them into first place overall in the NHL. Will that end up happening? We'll find out in less than 24 hours time. In about 22 hours from now, we will find out if that occurs or not. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave us comments here, there, and everywhere. Tell your friends, tell your family the best place to be. After each and every Winnipeg Jets game is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, and again on Saturday mornings for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Want to say a big thank you to all of the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, the website a possibility. Our friends at Farmery Beer. Let me take a sip of this delicious Illegal Curve lager. Hang on a second. It's ice cold.
I don't know if it's ice cold, Drew. It's
a
little warm at this point.
I got a little bucket of ice off camera here. You guys can't see.
I don't believe that.
Okay.
I don't believe that, Ezzy.
There's no bucket.
I call that bluff. By the way, as an aside, I just want to say, folks, because I've noticed some of the comments, people are like, Drew's still awake. What's going on? When he's like a dog with a bone. When he's got something he wants to chit chat about, there ain't no time limits. There ain't I got to get to bed. I got a busy day tomorrow. Drew pulled a Weber. He's at the buffet. And according to some folks, Weber and Rennie are going at it right now.
Well, you can go check them out in a couple minutes after I continue to give props to the rest of our sponsors, our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club. Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, they're the title sponsor of the post-game show. Tough Duck, Charlie Horse just won a Tough Duck Cooke. Boston Pizza will be live on location there coming up. Details to follow. Seagram's and our friends, of course, at Rolly's Transfer. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of illegal curve hockey. Jets win 2-1 over the San Jose Sharks. We're next in action tomorrow night, later tonight to be more accurate. About 11:15, 11:30, give or take a couple minutes there. If you haven't already done so, like I said, smash the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. LegalCurve.com has all your post-game news and audio and everything that you need about the Jets and the Manitoba Moose. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, and tomorrow until later on tonight, after the Jets and the Ducks, we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.